The command pattern is an approach to building applications that has several different benefits. First of all, it allows you to create singly purposed classes that are generally very focused on doing things and also very small and easy to understand. They also typically have few dependencies. You can create properties or methods on the classes to customize them. They are typically transient and they're also easy to unit test. So I'm going to share with you the approach that I take to implementing the command pattern. And generally what you'll end up with is a whole bunch of nicely named things in your application that are reusable, easy to configure, easy to run and set up and interact with. So I'm going to use just some plain text here to explain the concept, and then in another video I will show some actual code that implements this command pattern. So first of all, commands they follow a specific naming convention. It makes it very easy to read the name and figure out exactly what it does. So let's say that I have a database module and that stores, inserts, updates, deletes, and queries things from a local SQLite database in my application. And then I also have another module. I'm going to call it the Data Dragon module. And it is a module that interacts with something called Data Dragon, just a remote API on a website somewhere that retrieves data from a JSON web service. So a REST-based web service. So I'm going to just create some command names here that I typically use. So since I'm writing commands for a database, I like to make it obvious what's going on. So the first part of the command is obviously the verb. There's a verb and there's a subject, and then I end with a suffix of command. So for example, if I want to insert a champion, that's the name of the command. If I want to insert a champion skin, that's the name of the command. So it's obvious by the name of this command that I'm doing a SQL insert, what I'm inserting, a champion, and that it's a command. So likewise, I may update some data, and I'll call this and then I may have some deletes, and finally some query. So I think just by the fact of the way that I'm naming these, it's obvious what each command does. And the really nice thing is each one of these does one specific thing. It has one job, and therefore it's easy to understand when you look at the code what it's doing. Keeping the same structure for my Data Dragon commands, I'm going to be interacting with a remote web service, JSON based, and there are certain verbs that are common when you're doing networking. Those are things like get, put, post, delete, head, etc. All the HTTP verbs. So I want to name my commands that do networking to correspond to the network operation, the HTTP operation that's occurring. So for example, if I want to go get a list of champions from the remote web service, I'll call that get champions command. If I want to get a list of champion skins, I'll call it get champion skins command. If I'm instead posting data using an HTTP post, I'm typically going to post one, so I will call that post champion command. And if I'm issuing a delete champion command. So this is just following the same structure as I used above, but the thing that I really like about this is that I name my commands so obviously that it's very easy to read in a list and tell what they do. I don't necessarily have to open the code to see. And I can also, it's kind of like a menu. All the things my application can do are listed as commands in the application. And these are just classes. They're Objective-C classes. And we'll, in another video, I'm going to take a look at how these get implemented. The last thing I want to tell you about commands that are common is that every command has one way to invoke it. There is a method when you want to run the command, you just call execute. So every single command has a function called execute. And so if I want to run the insert champion command, I just create an instance of it. I customize it with any properties that I want, and then I call execute. Very simple, very consistent, and simple to understand.